Hello everyone, William Johnson here, and we are on another conga tutorial, another percussion tutorial. It's Saturday. Hopefully you're tuning in, and well, if you're watching this, then I guess you're tuning in. So we're back on the congas, but today we're going to do something a little different. Today we're going to talk about playing congas in worship. And when I say in worship, what I mean is the context of, as opposed to contemporary gospel, we're talking about more CCM style, popular styles that you hear, types of songs that you hear coming from churches and groups like Chris Tomlin, Elevation Church, or Hillsong, or Jesus Culture, Bethel. A lot of more of a classic rock, pop, ambient type of music that has been inspired over the years by famous bands such as U2, even more on the rock side, like perhaps Bruce Springsteen or other forms of rock and roll. So within these genres, there are other styles that have influenced them. Everything from reggae to EDM to dance to disco, you name it, even some gospel fusion. But overall, what I'm going to mainly be talking about is more of a singer-songwriter, rock and roll, ambient style of worship. Now, one of the difficult things about talking about playing in this style of music is that even though there are artists who use a lot of percussion in their recordings, for the songs that are played in a lot of churches around non-denominational churches, at least in the United States and in Europe and in various places in South America as well, but in a lot within the United States, I'm especially talking about in my experiences, the styles of music that is played there, you don't hear as many hand drums. There are artists that use them, but unless it's live and at a conference, on the actual recording, you don't often hear it as much as you would in various Latin genres. So that the difficult thing about it is, again, like any form of music, is subjective, but also when you're playing, you're often making up your parts. You're composing, and that's no different than any other genre. But when the guitarist pretty much has his chord arrangements and the pianist and whatnot, and then you're pretty much making up your own, that can make it a little more difficult depending on who the music director is or whoever's in charge or the style of music you're going to play. Now, I'm not talking about if you're going to interpret this in a funkier way, but I am going to mainly just approach this from the recording standpoint, okay? So again, everything from Chris Tomlin to Hillsong, that style of music. Now, a couple things I'm going to talk about really quickly is I'm going to play a couple rhythms, but mainly what you can do to improve your ability and your development on the congas, bongos, hand drums in general for this style of music. And this is only part one of a series. So we'll talk about this in a few other videos coming up. Now, as I dive deeper into this, I'm just going to show you a couple things that a lot of conga players and a lot of hand drummers may do, or things that you can do in this style. Now, the way I approach it, if you're playing with a drummer in your chapel, in your church, what have you, then you can either play just like the other videos where I talk about playing in funk styles or contemporary gospel, playing with a drummer. Check those videos out because a lot of this still applies. But if you're playing with the drummer, there's a couple things you can do. Now, what I like to do is when I'm starting out a song, if the song calls for some rhythmic thing up front, I may play the congas, the drum part on the hand drums first. Now, this doesn't always apply because sometimes you don't want to play any drums in the beginning of the song. But if it applies, it's a nice touch to play with the drum part. So it's good to know what the drummer is doing. And that's something that I'm going to mention a few times, is that knowing and developing your ears of what the other musicians are doing so that you can borrow ideas and also add different layers to the song. It'll add to your repertoire, your resource as a player, your ability. So let's say the song is like a "How Great Is Our God." That's a simple one. It's an older one, but may come up every now and then in a medley form. So the song might be in a tempo like this: 2, 3, 4. So in the beginning, I'm playing more of a beat, of a backbeat type of a groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So and I'm not explaining what I'm playing there, but more along the lines of I'm playing what the drummer might play. Real soft. Okay? So I'm using bass tones, I'm using open tones, I'm using the very rim, very tight, and only these couple of these fingers here, right here on the very edge for my, what would be a snare, a very light snare. And then as the chorus comes in, or the second verse, and we want to lift the song a little bit, and the drummer comes in, it's a nice touch to add a shaker on top, okay? Now, along with that shaker, you may move to a syncopated groove. You may want to move to a syncopated groove with the drummer. Now, the drummer is taking over, right? So the drummer's playing that part, and then you may play more of a syncopated groove within him. So he's going boom, cut, boom, cut. So I may play and move to playing open tones. So for now, we're just on 2 drums. Open tones around where his snare falls or his accents are. So I'm playing open tones around. That's the biggest part, is my bass and my aligning with his bass and the drummer, and every now and then adding, but I'm really aligning a lot of my bass notes with where his kick drum, the heavy toms, and where the bass guitar is at, which is another trickier thing because the bass guitar is often less syncopated. Sometimes there's less subdivisions in this style of music. If it's a song like How Great Is Our God, or a Corey Asbury song, which I love his music, or some Hillsong or what have you, if it's a popular one that everybody's singing, I'm thinking Reckless Love is a good example. The bass drum is, the bass guitar is not going boom, 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 doom, 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 doom. So I don't want to add too much mud, and I want to make sure that I don't distract from the lyrics, because that's a big part of playing in this style of music, is understanding the culture, and that the lyrics are really the lyrics is the message, is what's driving forward, what we're driving, and we don't want to distract from it. Not to say that in contemporary gospel or in funkier styles of music, the message is not central. Certainly it is. That's a part of the culture too. But there's often more space left in this style of music. So I'm aligning a lot of my bass notes and my with the kick drummer and the bass drummer, and I'm adding muffs. And I'm also, a lot of times, I'm doubling up on my snare with my rim, my slaps, my accents with the drummer. Now, sometimes, depending on the song, I'll also add slaps before and after, which I'll mention that in more detail here briefly in a second. But so now I've added, the drummer comes in, I may go to a shaker, or I just add some subdivided stuff. What I mean by subdivided, I'm playing where the other drummer is not. I'm playing around him. I'm filling space. I'm helping to drive the rhythm. I'm helping to drive the melody and the lyrics forward. I'm just supporting the song. Now, as I say melody, when I play in this style of music, the way I approach my congas is not just as a rhythmic instrument, but also as a melodic instrument. So you may see this every now and then, but sometimes drummers will add stuff like this, or using my thumb, different harmonics, right? In between the verses, if something is stated and then I want to punctuate that statement, the lyrics vocally, I may do something like that. You know, how great is our God? You know, really soft, mixing my sounds, listening to the room. I'm tuning to before I play, I'm tuning my drums to the room, but I'm also playing dynamically. I'm being driven, I'm being motivated and inspired by where the singer is, okay? of course, spiritually as well. But if we're just on a practical level, musically, where I'm listening to dynamics, where the music director is, where is the singer, and every now and then I'm going above the band, but a lot of times I'm right behind them. I'm mixing in. I'm just adding these accents, right? And never just, no, paying attention to every single sound. You are no different than the guitarist, okay, or the keyboardist. But I like to hone in on. I get a lot of my inspiration from what lead guitarists do, okay, because there's a lot of melodies and sounds sonically that is happening to complement the vocals. And so sometimes I may also do that in a tasteful manner with the guitar. So I can play rhythmically, but I can also play melodically. Now that being said, I still use patterns. So if I'm here, you playing this type of pattern, so boom, 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 ding, 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 ding. That's something that could be played depending on how I have my drums tuned on a guitar or on a keyboard or on the bass guitar. And it's a pattern. And then within the pattern, I may leave the pattern. But that's my theme. I'm still thinking theme. And a lot of times I use a separate theme for the verses and the chorus or the pre-chorus. So you have a strategy, something that will complement the song. Now, for this first episode, I'm just throwing a lot of ideas, and then I'm going to play along to a friend of mine, Scott Coates' song, and I'm going to do practically show you a couple things that I have explained here that I'm going to also do there. Now, so these are all basically ideas, some things that we can do, things that I like to do in playing in worship styles of music. Now, the difficult thing, and I'm reaching down here because I have my notebook, just a couple notes, things that I wanted to share with you, and that one of the things that's also very important is listening to other percussionists. So in the notes, I have a couple percussionists listed that I think would be really good to check out and listen to the things that they're doing with the drummer by themselves. And a lot of these things that I've suggested and these ideas, these practical tips, you will hear, okay? Also, it's really good to listen to percussionists who have been successful in pop styles of music, rock styles of music. For instance, Lenny Castro, Luis Conte. I love Luis Conte. Good friend, amazing percussionist. Richie Gajate Garcia. These guys have thousands of recordings between them. Everyone from Madonna to Toto to the list really could go on. Phil Collins, James Taylor. So this is a little different than a lot of real funky styles of music where there's a lot of subdivision or you may hear a lot of percussion. So these men have come up with patterns to not distract from the music, but also to help elevate and enhance the music. If you listen to Rosanna, Lenny Castro's playing the congas. Now, yes, that's a little more funky, but this still applies. Where you hear what Lenny Castro is doing, he's adding his slap tones before the backbeat, and a lot of times the open tones on a tumba or a conga around what the drummer doing. All the way. And when you have more upbeat types of music within worship styles, this is great to listen to what they're doing and to try to emulate that, to come up with these grooves. Now, in a whole nother lesson, I'm going to talk about developing a drum language for you developing a drum language so that when you listen, you can sing what you hear and then play, and if you can sing it and vocalize it, often it will help you to have it materialize from the subconscious, the back of your head, what you're hearing, to actually practically on the drums. But that we'll do in another lesson. So listening to these percussionists, and I'll also write that in the comments, add that in the comments, some percussionists that you can listen to, check out their music. There's so many percussionists that you can go on, but listen to these musicians and how they play in these styles, these popular styles of music. It's a great way of learning what to do, because as I said before, one of the difficult things is that you're basically composing, not just arranging your parts, but composing your parts that aren't even in the recording. So you want to come up with tasteful things to play. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a song by a friend of mine. I believe the song is Therefore by Scott Coates. And in the beginning of the song, I'll just kind of play the main beat. I'll let the song play a little bit first, then I'll come in with the main beat. Then as the beat comes in, I'll add a pattern around what the drums are doing in the song, just to give a practical idea and just some suggestions. So again, thank you for watching. If this helps out, or you have any questions or some other directions that I can take in this series episode, leave a comment, drop me a DM, direct message, whatever. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.